Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear us? Awesome. So today, the webinar is brought to you by Jim Pratt, and he's going to talk about blank ammunition and imitation weapons today. So what we're going to do is he's going to talk about the rules, protocols, and then also he has some weapons here that he'd like to showcase as well. If you have any questions, we're going to have a time frame after the webinar or his workshop for you guys to ask questions or whatever you may want to know. So we'll have time for that after. But I guess, do you mind if they, as you're going along?
If you have questions while we're going through, feel free.
Oh, and my name is Louise Vigo, and I am the Programming and Mentorship Coordinator here at the Filmpool. And I welcome and thank you everybody for partaking in this webinar today. And there you go.
Okay. Well, to begin with, to get your firearms, to be a firearms handler on set, this is the beginning. Your possession and acquisition license, you need one of those. That's the start. But then after you have that, the business and firearms license is required on a film set. And just so you know what the costs, and you apply for this through the RCMP. And for a lot of the things that we deal with on set become prohibited devices. So we have to have prohibited firearms licensing, which is $150 through the RCMP. And then we have the other part of for non-restricted and restricted firearms, $250. So you're looking at about $1,500 for a 3-year license for firearms on set. And this covers movies, movie sets, television, and theater. But let's say if you're only doing theater, it's not quite as much. It's like $125 for 3 years if you're setting up only to do a theatrical portion. But the license that I have covers all 3 of those aspects. Now, another very important part to the license, when you apply for a license, let's say you were going to get it, you will be audited by the RCMP. They'll come out to your location and they'll make sure that you have safe storage. They give me a whole pile of these too. So it's storage, transporting, and displaying of firearms, because we display them on set for film work. Now, when we deal with on-set safety, we are the final authority in Canada anyways. The firearms handler, the armorer are the final say of safe handling. If the production company doesn't agree with what we're doing, we say no, we shut them down, because we see the dangerous example of what happened in the States, where they're going around saying he did, she said this, and everybody's trying to determine who was, where did the safety fall apart there? Whereas the only people who are allowed to handle the firearms, according to Canadian law up here, under the bill that came out in 1998, which this is a toy gun. It looks real, but on a film set, that's a prohibited device. This is a BB gun. So, and same with this. This looks like a real one, but it's a toy gun again. You can see it has a toy magazine here, and it's just a simple BB gun here. But as we go on, another thing that we do when we're on set, we make sure that they have safety meetings prior. Like any shop, you have your toolbox meetings. We make sure we have those implemented. We want to make sure that, and we record them. Like myself, I will record it in a patrol book. And on set, for safety, I always wear a body camera now. That way they can't say that I said something or had acts or omissions. So I make sure that everything is safe as possible, because we're going to go on. Another thing that we want to make sure, because even when we're operating with blanks on set, the concussive force out of here can cause serious damage to anyone. If they're in the, what we'll start calling down from the muzzle area, this is a death cone coming out of here. Even if it's a blank fire, a toy gun, doesn't matter. Muzzle control is the most important thing that you want everybody to, when they have the firearms. You never point it at something that cannot be replaced, a human life, or expensive devices like cameras. You don't want to shoot cameras because all of a sudden, you'll ruin the production right then and there. Another thing that is a big, big no-no, and we see what happened on this film production, live rounds are a big no-no. They're never allowed on set. There's two reasons that you don't have. One, you can have a serious fatal discharge, as we see what happened. And if this is a barrel out of a real 9mm. Now, I don't know if you can see through it, but I will, there's nothing in it right now. So I push a pen through it. Now, if I was using this for blank fire, there would be an obstruction in the barrel to allow it so that it would cycle back and forth. Now, if the obstruction that's deliberately put in there to make it cycle breaks away, it becomes an object that could seriously hurt someone or damage something. Now, this is a blank fire adapter that I made for, I don't know if you can see it very well, but it threads into the front buffer cup on an MG34. And that way it allowed us to fire blanks through an MG34 on set where we needed filming. But there again, going back to live rounds, you never have live rounds on set. It's just too dangerous. And then I always hear them talking about misfires. Well, and then they call it accidental discharge on set. Well, a misfire is when the hammer strikes a firing pin and it does not discharge. For some reason, the primer did not discharge. Now you're going to see here, this is my main prop here. All of a sudden you have your actor, he's going to fire his prop here. If he pulls the trigger, nothing happens. All of a sudden, it doesn't matter anyone else on set. You're the firearms handler, prop master. He holds this at whatever he was pointing at. He doesn't wave it around, look at it, because he could have a hang fire going in that misfire. So we yell cut. We're authorized to do that. We don't care what happens to anyone else. We yell cut. We go in there, he holds it until we take it away from him. Then all of a sudden, it went off. It was a hang fire. That's why I brought this as a prop. It gives me a good feel because I have actually seen hang fires when I was working on the job, when we were qualifying for the job at the range. And all of a sudden, someone would drop the hammer on their revolver, and all of a sudden, nothing would happen. They had to stop qualifying and clear the weapon, hold it down range for a few seconds, because they will discharge. But generally, it's not as common with the modern rounds we're using. But if you're using a lot of iron curtain ammunition, that was really bad for hang fires. I've actually seen hang fires and a squib round. Now, squib round, or your dummy rounds that you have on set, you'll take it apart and you'll put a BB in there so that you can come in when you're announcing a cold gun and you're putting cartridges in. You shake it, you can hear the BB rattling, and then you can put it in. You know that you have a dummy round. But the only thing is, on camera, this one here, I didn't pin the end of it. So generally you'd put this into a pistol or something, or you'd deprime it. You pull a primer out, and then all of a sudden we know we have nothing in there. But what happened with Brandon Lee, where he died, they had a squib load like this with just a primer in it. And then they had the BB in. Oh, yeah, it sounds good. No bullet, no powder in there. It's safe. But when they fired the primer, when they were on the set the day before, it dislodged the bullet and it became embedded in the barrel of the firearm. Next day, they came with blanks. They put their blank round in, and a blank round, we're going to, another brief demonstration here. There's a difference between the powder loads,
Want me to hold it, folks?
between live round is the one on the left, the blank is the one on the right. It has more powder. Now what happens, as they were on set, they put their blank round in, and he still had the obstruction in the barrel. Now all of a sudden he drops the hammer on this, boom, it discharges, launches that projectile out as an actual bullet. That's why Brandon Lee, he was shot essentially with a live round. Like on, thank you, on when I was at work, if we had a squib load like that, it would launch the bullet into the barrel, but they were always 2 to the body, 1 to the head, 2 to the body, and were pushing us. And one of the guys on the firing range had a squib load go into his revolver. Second load blew the top strap off of his pistol. It blew the cylinder apart and just essentially destroyed a Smith & Wesson M&P revolver on the set. But at least he wasn't injured at that. But essentially, that's the danger between now with on a film set. What they should have done with Brandon Lee was taken something to see if there was any obstruction in the barrel. And then they would know that it was safe to use. But there again, they should never have been pointing it directly at the person anyways. On a film set, you can always do it with creative angles, because never do we allow, like if we're bringing the firearm on set, well, we'll use this because we know it's a little safer. But we never point it directly at the camera, because if a catastrophe happens, we've destroyed production by destroying the camera. We always point it off at a slight angle. And it's got to be in a safe enough angle. You can pick up the muzzle flash out of it if they're doing muzzle flashes, and it's away from the camera. But when we're doing that, we always make sure there's a sheet of Lexan in front of the camera. The camera operator is wearing a safety shield with safety glasses and a bullet-resistant vest, because blanks have more discharge powder than a live round does. But like I said, now on set, the only people who handle the firearms are the firearms handlers on set. Now, if I go on set, as per what happened with what we see in that movie in New Mexico, where was it? But they announced, they came on set and said, cold gun on set. All of a sudden I say, cold gun on set. That doesn't mean anything. You want a cold gun on set? It's like in the military. You have to prove it. First thing you're going to do is you're going to walk up to the director. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right there. You know there's nothing in there. Or if you're putting dummy cartridges in, you'll do them in front of the actor and in front of the director. How many dummy rounds you're putting in, or how many blank rounds. Cold gun on set. It stays cold. If they're going to act with a cold gun, you hand off the cold gun after you've proven it to the director, then you prove it to the actor. You do not allow the assistant director to come to your table and say, I need a gun, and they're going to grab it and run away. Never. That's never allowed. You have to be within range to protect the firearm from the uneducated. So gun safety is really important. Now, another thing that I always like to see happen is a lot of people who are, they're acting as cops or bad guys or whatever on a movie set. they've never fired a firearm in their life. So what we want to do is have a range day with them. And when we set up a range day, the way I do it, I don't want to get these people gun shy, because they got to look like they're proficient. So if this was a real firearm, I'll have different calibers like this one. We'll start with a 22, and I'll start with 22 blanks, just so they get used to the noise. They'll have earplugs and eye safety on. But then we teach them how to use the firearm safely and how to prove that it's safe, that it's not loaded. And then we'll go through the demonstration, and then we'll do blank rounds. Then we'll move up to a live 22 round so they can feel and see how the thing is going to discharge with a 22 round. Then we'll move up to what they have. I'm not too worried about what they're shooting at, other than they're shooting at either the ground or something that just a regular target on the range. But then we teach them muzzle control is the most important thing. Control the muzzle at all times. Never point it at anything you want to destroy. Like I remember when I took my firearms training at work, of course it's a little different. They were teaching us use of deadly force. But they said, all this is no different than a drill. Just you have the drill bit is leaving your drill and going down to the object you want to put a hole in. So whatever you want to destroy, that's where you'll aim at. And of course, we were taught, stop, drop your weapon. And if they didn't comply, then we were obliged to continue on however we were taught, or whatever the situation at the time was. So, and there again, a lot of times you'll have actors come on set, and I've gone there and they say, oh yeah, I know how to use firearms. That's fine. That works really well. You're great. But then we'll move along with that. I'll say, okay, I'll go through a safety spiel describing what we expect from all the actors. If we're, like we did one Civil War scene for, I forget what, we had a whole bunch of blanks ready to go. So I went through the spiel, and most guys are rolling their eyes. Yeah, I've hunted. I know all gun safety and that. Then I had a watermelon. I set it up right about where my hand is there, took a revolver, bang, shot it. When that watermelon exploded, the look on their faces, all of a sudden they were all crowding around me, asking questions about the things I already told them. But same whether it's a slide gun, revolver, rifle, a shotgun, it doesn't matter. If I'm going on set and I announce a cold gun on set, first thing I'm going to do is prove, open it up, show that there's nothing in it, nothing in the magazine, nothing in the pistol. That's the one most important thing. Rubber gun or real gun, it doesn't matter. We know these are toys, but we're on set. This is a prohibited device, and you treat it as such. Because on a film set, as if you were so inclined to get something, go down, try robbing a bank with it, and you're walking around, law enforcement doesn't know that this is a toy gun. It looks so real, I can set it down beside a real firearm, and you wouldn't be able to tell which one, because this one says right on it, Colt. This was actually manufactured, this imitation is manufactured by Colt. It even has its own serial number. It's that convincing. The only giveaways on this is if you can see down the tip of the barrel. And you'll get people who, on movies, they'll watch and they'll see the barrel come right up to the camera and say, oh, I saw that was a toy gun, when they're watching The Rookie or something like that. Oh yeah, that was a BB gun. Or you can see where the CO2 cylinder goes into the magazine. But still, these have to be treated the same way as a blank firing firearm too. And there again, I can't stress it enough. No one else handles the firearms. No, I have this book, even to bring the toy guns on set, because we're filming here. I have to record everything in here, serial numbers and everything. In fact, because the toy guns are listed as prohibited devices, I keep a complete record of all the ones I have written in the back here. And the RCMP actually have that list and serial numbers. In case something does happen. It's not Big Brother, but it's keeping everybody safe. And like I said, on set, a camera is your best friend. A body camera. I know that some film sets, they don't want you walking around filming things. It doesn't matter. We're not filming things. We're keeping things safe. We can sign non-disclosure agreements saying that whatever goes on the body camera only stays in my computer until the production's done and I've been paid and there's no lawsuits or anything. Then I will delete them later. And I don't know if you can see now this. Sometimes we've had shotgun shells we've used as blanks, and they'll just be open in the end and they'll be, or crimped, but you'll feel they're lighter. But the amount of force coming out of a shotgun, you don't want to be on the business end. Now this here is an oversized round, but this is what a live round looks like. So that's a short chamber Boxer Henry 45 round, if you've ever watched the movie Zulu. If you haven't, well, this is the round that's used in a Martini Henry rifle. And I don't know if you can see this, but I'll bring it up a little closer. You can see where it's unpinned on the end there. So you can see that the center part, that's where the primer sits. Now here you can see how that primer is pinned there on the end? You can see a firing pin has affected that one. So you can see side by side, unpinned and pinned. Because I know I was watching it was a quick take, but on the Equalizer movie with Denzel Washington, the guy's in his house and he hears the car alarm going. He breaks open his revolver to see that it's loaded. And he had 6 cartridges or 5 cartridges in his revolver. And you could see they were all pinned, but they did it so quick it was hard to pick up on it. But there again, the movie is just make-believe. It doesn't matter. But in the case of now, hopefully this will show. And I'll bring it up to the camera so you can see. So safety is paramount when it comes to things being dangerous on set. And there again, with the incident that happened, I can't stress enough, if I'm handing off, you can announce it as a cold gun on set. I announce it cold gun on set as I approach it. But then I go up to the director, and I don't know if you can see the cartridges in there. I rotate them, and you can see there, all of a sudden, whoa, we've got a problem in there. Do you see there's an unpinned cartridge in there? So all of a sudden, we'd pull that out, and all we have is a primer blank. There's no powder in it, just a primer. But that will still make a loud bang. But if Alec Baldwin would have taken his revolver, had the props master or firearms handler come up and prove it by turning it, open the gate, look in, and then hand it off to him. And the first thing he should have done, like the assistant director, whatever their protocol is there, but when he came on set, he should have walked in, cold gun, and then prove it. Cold gun, cold gun. Then he shows it to the director. Cold gun, because I've done that so many times on set. And then goes up to the actor, cold gun, and proves it. It takes a little time, but if they're in a hurry, they get upset. And I say, look, safety comes first, because I know I almost got walked off on the one set because they didn't want me to use a watermelon to show the explosive force of it. But there again, I've proven this to you, and now this is all rubber guns and prop guns, and some are real firearms. I've proven it to you. If I hand this over to Louise now, she has to prove it too, because all firearms are considered loaded. Even after you prove it, I'm handing it off, surrendering it. I'll hand it over. She can look through the gate itself. But you treat every firearm as loaded. Because the thing is, you don't want to put one of these, if you can see it, that's a 45 slug. So, and that's about the size of the slug that would have been into the director of cameras on set for that one. Now here, I also have a bunch of 303 cartridges here. Now these are dummy training rounds, and I can prove that by we take them out, and you'll see this has no primer on the tip at all. And all of these have no primers. And we're all familiar with 303 cartridge sizes. That's common Canadian, British military round that was used up into, from, I think, 1886 or 1890. Well, I know I have an 1896 Lee Enfield rifle used up till into the 1950s. So, another thing is, if you decide you want to be a props master firearms handler, the difference between these two powders, the live rounds, is not as corrosive as the blank rounds we're using. That's a good combination of black powder in there. So when you're done on your film set, you have to make considerations that you're going to have to charge extra to clean your firearm up, because now you've loaded it up with black powder. You have to take the thing right apart and clean it, give it a complete going over, and lube it. Otherwise, the thing will rust away to nothing. I think we pretty well covered everything that we have. You just have to remember, when you're on a film set, all firearms are considered loaded and dangerous. And when you have your actors, because I remember on one set, I handed off a firearm to one of the actors, and I pretty near had a heart attack. He was going around like this, waving the firearm around at everybody. And I grabbed the thing away from him and said, no, if that thing was loaded, you could have a negligent discharge and kill somebody or destroy something. So you always treat every firearm as loaded and lethal. And then muzzle control is the most important thing with the actors. Of course, they don't have to really be good shots on set, because you're going to have the actor going out and shooting. Now, another thing is, if you're training people, you're saying they're law enforcement and you're on set, you're the firearms handler, and all of a sudden you see the guy walking out with his finger in his trigger and he's a trained law enforcement. No. Trigger discipline. It's always beside the trigger guard while you're giving your commands, and then you're in. Finger is off of the go switch, as sometimes I call it, and always mindful of the death cone coming out of there, because we don't know how the projectile is going to come out. It could come out like a shotgun, even though it's a rubber gun. I like these. Now, another trick that we have been doing, and this works quite brilliantly, we take these dummy cartridges, we grind up chalk, and we put it into these dummy cartridges in these CO2 pistols. And when we shoot, you get a nice bloom of smoke coming out of it. It's quite safe in that regard, even though we treat it as real. But this one pistol here, the other one, no, I cleaned it up, but most of my pistols, you see, they're really white on the tip, because all the chalk, when we're doing blank firing, we'll load them up. And you get, like this one here, I can't load individual cartridges, but we load up the barrel and we get about 5 or 6 shots where it looks like you have 5 or 6 rounds coming out of the pistol. That's a real good way to go, and it's safer. And it also gives them something to cue off of if they're going to do digital effects afterwards to put flame in the barrel. And it's quieter, it's cheaper. Like this thing here, when it goes off, it's just a light little pop when it fires off. So, and with the gas, it'll go out. But the only thing you do not get is shell casings flying out of it. So they have to digitally put it in, or maybe at the guy's feet have some empty cartridges and you can be tossing them down beside him. We've actually done that on set once, where the one guy, he had fired a bunch of rounds off and they wanted to make it look like he was shooting. So we had a bunch of empty cartridges. We're just dropping them down beside his foot at the rate of fire, whatever it was, off camera. So these are little tricks you want to work on to be really efficient as a kind of a props master firearms handler. But in final bit of it here, in conclusion, we work with the props masters, but we are firearms handlers and on-set armorers. We work directly with them, but we're not with them. And there again, like if I've used this on set, now I have my firearms here, we're going for lunch, no problem. I close up everything in there, lock it up, and it goes with me. Or if we have too many firearms on the table, we chain them all up, trigger lock them, get them all set, and then if I have that many, I have more people on set. One person goes for lunch. The other firearms handler stays with the props. Nobody touches them. Nobody goes near them. On set, the actors can use these while they're acting, but when they yell cut, you collect the firearms from them right away. Unless they're setting up for another scene, they're taking another angle, they still can keep it on their hands. But the actors do not leave set with the props. You run them down, you grab it back from them and scold them if they're going to try leaving set. Another thing you want to do is interview them to see how comfortable they are with firearms and the firearms props. Because some people they're deathly afraid. It looks like a firearm, they're afraid of it. But there again, you can use the drill analogy. You can have a portable drill with you there too with a battery in it. These do the same job. Just this one makes more noise and it drills further away. I don't have to stand up to the wall to put a hole in it or whatever. So that's basically how that boils down. And these ones here I love because it breaks down like an actual, you can take this down and take it apart like an actual Colt 1911 for the breakdown. If I get the parts out. My fingers aren't as nimble as they used to be. There. And then I can disassemble it from there. And that's where when we're cleaning the props firearms, even with these, if you're using chalk in them, you really, really have to clean them. So have a computer duster to blow it out. And if you use too much chalk in a revolver, the chalk style revolver, I'm not talking blanks anymore, what'll happen is the chalk will build up in them and then the hammer will not come back, the cylinder may gum up and it won't rotate, so we have to take it all apart, clean it up and then put it back together and then reset. So, but those are just the nature of the beast on the film set.
Hi, Jim, we met before you.
Yes. Yeah, I remember. I see a lot of familiar faces on here, actually.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, question about, when you talked about clearing the barrel after a shot, like after a round.
Yes.
When you see on a film multiple shots, what are the protocols then for clearing or allowing several shots to come from a gun without that barrel inspection, barrel cleaning?
We've done multiple shots before, and when we set up for multiple shot, they're shooting at their safe target for the camera, and they'll continue on shooting until the firearm is empty. Then we'll reset. I take the firearm back from them. Then I check the barrel, clear it. And it may also have, they may have blank fire adapters in them. Because I have a few, the blank fire adapters, different ones that, whether it's an AR-15 rifle, M14, AK-47, MG-34, Thompson submachine gun. I'm just relating the ones that I've actually used and made blank fire adapters for. My favorite one that I have used is the Thompson submachine gun. It's played in, I try to get that into every movie that has blank fire in it. Whether it's, and I've had the director and the producer come up, we don't want the Tommy gun. We don't need the Tommy gun. Well, I dress it up to look like a space gun. I put things all over it. This one do? Yeah, that's great. Use it. So it's found its way into every movie I've worked on, especially with Lowell Dean. They'll say, no, I don't want the Tommy gun anymore. Just the AK-47, the AR-15s. And like I picked up another one. It looks like a bullpup space gun. And it's going to get all kinds of hardware put on it. But it's a Chinese T-76 or something like that. It uses the same blanks that I would get, if I can find it. That uses the same blanks as the AR-15 round would use. So the 5.56 or 223 blanks. So I'm kind of excited to use that one, but it's been so slow, and I've been mostly doing like independent university films, stuff like that. We just did one a couple weeks ago out near Grand Coulee. We only had 3 blank fires on that one in particular, but the best part of the shooting is we had very good success with the gas guns on that one. In fact, the director and producer was quite excited about how the gas guns worked, and he just continued on using those. So it was so much safer and cheaper too at the time too, because there is a cost involved when you're making your blanks. So, and of course this is this one blank. I'll bring it up closer. This is the again, that's the Thompson submachine gun or Colt 1911 blank in 45 ACP.
So, do all of the blanks do not present any sort of bullet at the end of the casing? Is that right? They all be open, or are there certain types of blanks that will actually appear like a real live bullet?
No, all of them will be either crimped end like this.
Okay.
Or they'll be open with a packed piece of cardboard in the end. Now the cardboard, with the cardboard tip, you could say if it was a revolver, it could look like a wad cutter round. And you could maybe paint the wad cut, the cardboard, you could color it up silver so it looks like a bullet maybe. But in general, when I'm loading up cartridges, I like this particular style with the BB guns because you can see right through them. See, it's open on this end. If I hold it up to my shirt, you might be able to see the yellow shirt through it. But you can see the other end is open too.
Well, that's not a blank. That won't make a sound.
This won't do anything.
That's right.
This is just, but from a distance, it looks like a live cartridge. And the great thing about this, as I was showing with this toy gun here, or as I call it. Well, you could get killed if you wander the streets with it. This is the toy cartridge for it, and I'll use them. This is the 357-38 cartridge. Fits in perfectly. There's no way it will discharge in this, but if I'm on set, most of my revolvers I try to keep in a standard caliber. That's another thing if you're setting up as a props master. I try to have like the Tommy gun and the 1911s. I'll use the Colt 45 round. When I got my Glock and set it up for blank fire, it's not in 40 cal, it's not in 9mm. I got it in 45 automatic Colt pistol. So one size fits all. When I purchased my AK-47, I purchased it to take the same size blanks or cartridges as my AR-15 rifle. And the T97 that I just purchased uses the same. So that way I don't have, when I go on set, if I'm going on with AR-15s or my AK. Now, yes, a discerning expert, firearms expert will look and say, well, yeah, your magazine doesn't have enough of a curve in your AR-15. Well, it's cheaper. I have one size fits all. That's why I do it that way. So that way I don't have to go with a myriad of different kinds of cartridges on set, blank cartridges. But there again, like another big no-no is live cartridges or live ammunition on set. That's a big no-no. But what I do like to see and get the actors comfortable with them. We have a range day. We'll go to a shooting range, and we have enough safety officers to supervise everybody. Now, your PAL license and the business firearms license together, they allow you to supervise, in Canada anyways, they allow you to supervise someone who has no license. But we have to remain like I said, they call it the camera eye line, where the actor is looking this way toward the camera. Now, only people who are allowed in the camera eye line is the cameraman, because otherwise you get some actors that get flustered, they get confused. And I remember I had one director, his last name was Newman. He was chewing me out for being in the camera eye line. But I was off camera enough, so because the shotgun was being aimed at this angle, and I made sure it was safe. And I said, no. I said, I'm either beside the camera in the camera eye line, or I'm standing beside your actor, which isn't going to work because the camera will pick me up. I said, so if you don't want me in the camera eye line, that shotgun's going with me. So he had to relent on that, because that was a case of safety. Safety comes first over anything else. I had to be within range to control the situation in case it went. And there again, the laws have changed a little bit since they brought in Bill 21. Prior to that, you could have props masters, and in Western Canada, they might look away the other way if you were filming a school film, university film, or a small indie film, and you went and you sent someone down to buy prop firearms from Cabela's. You bought a bunch of these BB guns because they look real. In fact, this looks so real. Aside from when you look right directly in the muzzle, you'll be able to see that it's not real. But sometimes I'll take a marker pen and mark it really black so you can't see the barrel, and then it looks more real. And they're great on set. They're a lot safer. The worst thing you can do is you might take someone's eye out with it. As if you have ever seen The Christmas Story, the movie, Ralphie wanted his Red Ryder BB gun, and every time he asked for it, oh, you'll shoot your eye out. And it was a major conspiracy against Red Ryder and his BB gun. So, but I prefer the gas guns on set, but a lot of the producers and directors who come into Saskatchewan, they want to use Blank fire, they like the old school thing. They want to see the smoke coming out of the barrel. They want that when they're filming. So that's easy for us to do. We can do that. But there again, different safety protocols. Because I remember I was on set when we had the first Wolf Cop movie, and I'm trying to teach Amy Matisso how to set up and carry her revolver and use it as law enforcement would. And then teach her so she looked like she was proficient when firing and how to look proper. So she was nervous. She didn't want to fire. Afterwards, she wanted the nickname Gun Girl because she was a good natural shot. But you'll find a lot of people who come in who've never fired a firearm in their life. You get them over the nervousness by bringing them up with 22 blanks first. So they get used to the violence of the thing discharging. Then the next step up, you go to 22 short rounds. So then they can see that they're hitting the paper target. Then you teach them how to muzzle control and how to direct use the sights on it. And then after you show them how to use the sights, you'll go to we were using a 38 revolver for Amy. And all of a sudden, she was probably a better shot than I was. I covered everything that you need if you're interested in getting toward it. If you have any other questions, whenever I'm available, I'm more than willing to discuss it. But there again, if you're working toward it, you have to have a proper, secure location for your firearms, and whether your business or home where you have it. You want it in a monitored alarm system. So generally, like my system where I have it is set up identical to what I know. At Brinks Armored Car, we had a vault room. And inside the vault room, we had our safes. And the vault room it's like a safe on the outside. You have to enter the vault room, which is an alarmed room in itself. And then we'd go in, and then the safes are inside the vault room. So, and that's what I would highly recommend if someone's doing it. That way you have better security. My room, it's a very secure room. It's also, I put wiring in the walls to make it kind of like a Faraday cage. So that way I don't have to worry about static electricity if I'm storing gunpowder in there and that. And then I have a sprinkler style system to put out fires in there. But also the windows are all boarded and locked up, but with a quick release from the inside if I have to get out if there's a disaster in it. So a fire or something like that. But those are the important things. And there again, on set, what I have done, like with these revolvers, I have small padlocks that will go behind the trigger lock. And I have a whole collection of them, so I'll lock them up. So when they're sitting in the lockup, when I have them on set, only one key to unlock them all, so I can get them out and ready and quickly, because the production wants to move on fairly quickly when they're filming too. Time is money for them. So, but there again, we don't want to go too fast because we don't want to omit safety. Oh, and another thing is on set, if you're doing blank fire, ear protectors. The actors will, like we did on Wolf Cop, they take these and they color them the color of their ear so that you didn't see the earplugs in there. So, but then everybody on set, you have to go around and announce that we're going to be blank firing. Make sure that everybody within proximity of the noise is going to have ear protection. And those who are close to the, what I call the death cone again, that they are shielded and protected from it. So other than that, comment, like when I hired on at Brinks, the most important tool you take to the job is common sense. And remember, another thing that we don't want to do is get tunnel vision. We want to look at the whole big picture. And if we see unsafe acts or anything going on, we stop it and shut it down right away and make sure that everything stays safe. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
When you're making your blanks, do you use straight black or do you use a duplex load?
No, I make a custom load. Mine is sometimes Pyrodex, Coffee Mate, and cornmeal. Cornmeal gives, you ever watch Gunsmoke, the special sound they had? I've been trying to get it so it sounds exactly like Gunsmoke. And that's a mix of Coffee Mate or creamer mixed in with a black powder and cornmeal. Cornmeal seems to give a real nice rapport when it fires, and the Coffee Mate gives you extra flame out of the barrel. And then if you want sparkler flames at night, what we do is I'll mix in flash paper into the gunpowder. In fact, I learned that secret while we came across that. I worked with Casey Marcus. But yes, the powder, what you'll use is what looks the best. So at nighttime, you'll use something that generates more flame. In the daytime, you don't see the flame. So in the daytime, you want something that generates a lot of smoke. So at nighttime, I'll use more Coffee Mate in it. And there again, the cornmeal is for the sound and a filler. But in the daytime, I'll use a lot more straight up black powder. Like Pyrodex doesn't put out quite enough smoke. So I'll mix either some homemade black powder mixed in with some Pyrodex or AFFF, whatever you can get your hands on. So, but that's the best way. If you're doing any black powder shooting and you're hunting, you can experiment and make your own blanks. But remember, if you want your blanks to work and they're black powder, they have to be packed really tight, or you won't get that compression out of it. It won't explode properly. Especially with the black powder. You got to pack it in as tight as you can get it. And that's where you have a wadding on it. You make sure it's as tight as you can get it. Otherwise, it'll just shoot some flame out of the barrel and it'll even drip out the barrel, the black powder. You'll see it rolling out of the barrel. So I know we did. Pardon me?
I was just saying, yeah, right. Unless it's properly packed with a wad, you won't get any kind of sound effect.
No.
Whoosh, that's about what you're going to get.
Yes. And I remember we were filming a black and white movie, and they didn't want the explosion. They just wanted a flame and a whoosh. So we did Der Glockner, where the guy was shooting a flintlock pistol in it. And they were really happy with how it looked. It looked hokey to me, but it looked great for them. So I thought, well, that's awesome. And in that one, it was like a turn of the century, pre-World War II or World War I thing. So they had a silhouette of a guy with a Luger cocking it. And then the Luger, it was a gas-operated Luger, but when it fired, it acted just like an actual Parabellum. And that's where we were using the chalk in the barrel. And it looked good in the black and white film. So. But the CO2 guns on set, they are your friends. So they're really safe friends. But if you're moving beyond that, safe black powder mixes are what we use. That's what I use mostly. I don't use smokeless powder because you'll get a bang out of it, but it's a waste of money. So if I'm going to do it like what has been done, like with the we'll say with the cowboy loads, what the cowboy action shooters are doing now, they're boring out the back of their cartridges and they're putting in shotgun primers into them. And then they'll make like grease bullets for them. And those, just the shotgun primer has more force than a .22 round. So they're using those when they're firing their grease bullets with their cowboy action quick draw on that. That way, if they shoot themselves in the leg, they might get a bruise on the leg, but they're still shooting their grease bullet down range at the target. And they're not even using gunpowder. They're using shotgun primers, which are larger, and they bore out the back of their 38 or 44 cartridges, whatever they use. Like if I was doing cowboy action shooting, I'd be using 38s. But it makes it cheaper. All you have to do is load primers into them then. Get a primer load and away you go. So
for blanks, it's the wadding that can be dangerous in a blank, right? There was an actor killed a number of years ago, held
Yes.
blank, got a blank right to his head.
Yes. Well, it's the one guy, he took it and he said, look at me, I'm safe. And he shot himself. The wadding and the concussive force of all that powder would kill him. It's same with the person who played the 1950s Superman, George Reeves. He used to keep a revolver at home and have people shoot at him with blanks in it, and somehow a live round got in there and he got killed at a party. So that was the end of George Reeves, because he used to, I'm Superman. He'd stand up and then people would shoot the blanks at him. See? Well, then the rumor has it that his girlfriend wanted, or his wife, girlfriend, or whatever, wanted him out of the picture, so they stuck a live cartridge in there. Then all of a sudden he's standing there, I'm Superman, and blam, he got killed. So, but that case was never fully solved anyways. So, but it's just a part of folklore now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a theory on the rust set benefit?
Yeah, I have my theories on that. I don't have enough evidence to deal on it, but I say the finger of blame goes directly to the executive producer because they were cutting too many corners. And the executive producer is an extreme anti-gunner. So if he would have taken one safety class through NRA, there would never be any, the tragedy wouldn't have happened. He'd have been safe with a firearm. But no, he knows more than the people who handle and use firearms, whether for a living or for home defense in the States. So the main finger of blame first falls on the executive producer, which is Alec Baldwin. But then the next culpable person is not the assistant director. It was the firearms handler. The firearms handler is in control of the props at all times. Unless they have a props master who is qualified also and certified, that props master should never have let the firearms sit on a table unattended. The assistant should never have allowed it so the assistant director could pick it up and walk in and say, cold gun on set, and hand it to him, because that's wrong. A proper firearms handler would come in and say, cold gun on set in safe mode, and then prove it. So in that case, with what we're seeing, and he took the firearm. And that's why I said we want to interview the actors so that they know to look. If they're getting a cold gun, they know how to check it. But there again, like with the revolvers, like the way I was taught to transfer them, I break the cylinder open with a 38 or a Colt, Smith & Wesson or Colt. I'll hold it with a break open. I'll show it to the director, the actor, and the cameraman. And then I'll close it and hand it to them. But if it's coming with blanks, we control the set completely there. I load the blank cartridge in. I'll bring it around because I know which way the cylinder rotates. I'll get it one ready to go. I'll say, you're ready, draw the hammer, fire it. So the actor will be there. And then if they have multiple rounds, they'll just, with the one revolver, it was a 9-shot 22 blank. So I just said, just keep going. I'll be off camera. And you just keep shooting at that direction because that's where the bad guy is. That's the safe spot. Fire all 9 rounds because it doesn't matter that it's going to be a 9-shot because they're going to edit the shots and they'll stop it at 6 or whatever. So, and there again, your actor is as good a shot as the director tells them he is. They don't have to, but the only thing you want to teach them is if they're going to bring the gun out or the firearm, that they're not going to be holding it pointing too high or pointing too low. You want to hold it so at level with the target you're shooting at. So that way they're shooting like this and the guy's on top of a building, that's phony looking. You want it to match whatever the director. So we'll also on set, we'll confer with the director and the actors and tell them, okay, well, this is what you're doing and this is how you're going to do it. So, And it worked out really well on a lot of the sets. That what happened in with Rust there, it was not a 1 in a million. It was their disdain and dislike for a simple tool, and these are tools. No different. It's no safer or more dangerous than a hammer, because a hammer or a knife. So it's just a tool. So, and their disdain for that shows in the tragedy that we ended up with down there. And there again, he shot her with a 45 slug. That's the same size slug as in this Martini Henry round. And he was probably, I don't know what caliber it was. I'm guessing it was a 44-40. At close range, it would have about the same punch as this here Martini Henry round that I have here. And this was not uncommon when they were fighting against the Zulu in the Zulu campaigns with the Martini Henry, that they'd shoot one guy and the bullet would travel through and hit another guy behind him, because you have a 500 grain piece of lead coming out of here. That's big. That's twice the size of most cartridge rounds. So, well, if you've seen Quigley Down Under, any of you see that movie where he had his rifle where he's shooting extreme range? It was a cartridge similar to this, but actually more superior to it. But it was a 45 caliber round, and it would reach out a good long ways too at that time. So any other questions on the go?
I used to work a lot with the historical reenactment theater.
Yeah.
Mostly for regarding 1885.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did was for sequences where you wanted to show someone loading a firearm with what appeared to be an actual cartridge, is we had some that were made up that were dummy rounds.
Yeah.
Basically, it was a 5.77 450 cartridge with exactly like you have there, with the projectile in it, no powder, no primer, and the primer bucket was filled with orange silicone seal, which once it hardens turns into rubber. So a quick glance at the back tells you this is not a real cartridge. But from the side, and as they load it into the gun with the thumb behind it, it looks like a real cartridge. If you do accidentally fire the gun, it protects the firing pin because it off the silicone seal. A lot of people were using originals, which are worth multiple hundreds and even thousands of dollars. They didn't want to risk damaging the firearm, hitting an empty spot.
Well, it
works pretty well for loading sequences.
That'd be great. Well, especially with the another thing, that the Boxer Henry round, it was a rolled brass cartridge. It wasn't a full solid one. It was a real cheap looking thing. I actually have one. I have Martini Henry rifles myself, and that's what I like shooting. In fact, I even have a Snyder Enfield. You're probably familiar with those then? A converted muzzleloader? Oh, you do? Oh yeah, I make my own cartridges for those. Only trouble is with the rounds you fire out of that, there's about a 60 caliber round. It has to have headlights and taillights. The cartridge is the slug is so large, the Department of Transport wants taillights on that thing.
It moves about the same speed as a semi-trailer too, doesn't it?
But you don't want to be on the business end. And
it'll keep going forever.
Oh yeah. I found the trajectory from the Snyder Enfield a little easier, or it shot just as far as the Martini Henry. But the Martini Henry kicks a lot harder. It's really nasty on the shoulder. Like 5 rounds and I'm ready to give it up. So. For our blanks for the Martinis and even for the Snyders, what we would do is we would pack it with black, like you're saying. And we would use basically 2F, because you want it consumed by the time it reaches the end of the barrel, but you don't want it to 4F, get in 4F, that's pretty explosive. And when we seal it with just a little disc cut out of single paper, like the back of a notebook or something like that. And then we would seal the edge of it where it connected to the inner wall of the cartridge with fingernail polish. Oh, that's a good idea.
and then it would stop it from coming loose,
Yeah.
and falling out, your powder pouring down the vent of the barrel, which is really embarrassing.
Yeah.
And it would still maintain enough pressure, but it would be totally disintegrated by the force of the shot, so there's no projectile involved.
Yes.
Safer.
Well, I just learned something for making blanks, fingernail polish for the paper ones that I make. That's a good idea. I never thought of doing that. Because usually I'll crimp them and pack them a little bit tighter when we're on set. So for the ones that I make anyways, for the revolvers and that. So that's a really good idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah. No, it works well for revolvers as well. I've used it with 45 long bolt rounds.
Yeah.
And there's no projectile, but you still get a bang.
Yeah. So you do a lot of that reenactment shooting, or is that around anywhere?
It used to be.
Yeah.
I used to be involved with a group called the Midland Historical Battalion.
Oh, yeah.
We put on a show mostly up at Fort Battleford.
Oh, yeah.